December 27th, 2021. Getting ready to ring in the new year here very soon. And Misty's off work, so am I. It is literally, sorry for the camera angle here, it's literally almost 70 degrees here in Ohio. All my gear is at my house, and I've been cleaning it. Sorry I'm out of breath, trying to get things ready because last minute spur of the moment trip. But we're gonna load limited gear up and go to Grayson for a few hours before it gets too cold and rainy. It's supposed to start raining this evening about 6 o'clock, which I'm not really worried about, to be honest with you. Got the rain suit, loading the gear here. But again, December 27th, 2021, we're going to try to catch one using some techniques for the winter time. Hard bottoms. I was reading an article the other day that Chris Zaldane wrote for Bassmaster, and it was really good, and it's hit on a lot of things I believe in too. That's finding stuff with hard bottom, throwing slow baits, jigs, or at the opposite of that, ripping baits like a blade bait or a rattle trap or whatever. We're going to Grayson, see if we can catch one 2 days after Christmas, right before the new year. Let's do it. Water temperature right now is 45.6 degrees. Throwing this Mega Bass jerk bait right here. The reason I chose to start here on this particular location is got a lot of hard bottom, a lot of rock. There's rock that comes way out in here. And in the wintertime, when you're fishing like this, you definitely want to slow down. But finding a hard bottom like these rocks here on this point, and these rocks go all the way around through this creek right here. This is part of the main lake. But I chose to start here because all these rocks just create this really nice hard bottom, and it's a sloping bottom here. Got some post-frontal conditions here. Are getting a little bit of rain, so misty rain here throughout the day. It's supposed to start raining real hard about 6 o'clock. I'm sure we'll be off the water by then. It's about 1:15, 1:20 here. Be throwing this jerk bait a lot. I got the jig tied on down there, which is a 3/4 ounce jig that I poured myself. Misty back there is throwing a crankbait, trying to figure out where they're at. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to slow way down. The water's kind of dingy. Make sure you're giving that jerk bait enough time to soak, if you will. You don't want to really rip it. I feel like I'm fishing it too fast right now anyway. But it's like the first cast. It's December 27th, so not too many days you get out like this in Ohio. We're at Grayson Lake in Kentucky, but close to where we live. Fishing these points with this jerk bait out here in the center. There's a road bed that goes through. I'm gonna fish this jig out there a little deeper on it. See what happens. Again, what I'm throwing here is a Mega Bass Vision 110 Junior. My rod that I throw this thing on right now, my absolute favorite rod to throw this on right now is the, hopefully you guys can see that. It's the 1611 Medium Plus Poison Adrena. I have a Shimano Chronarch CI4 Plus, which is one of my favorite reels on the planet. It is a lot louder than most Shimano reels, and the issue is the brake system here gets dry, and if you don't keep oil on it, you're going to hear that, you know, those brakes spinning against the rotor in here, and that's what causes that loud noise. But again, this 1611 Medium Plus Poison Adrena is phenomenal. I'm throwing this on a little heavier line. This is 16-pound Sunline FC Sniper. I like the fluorocarbon because it allows this jerkbait to dig a little deeper, get a little deeper. Now, I like a jerkbait, especially in the wintertime, to dive as deep as it can. This 110 Junior is not going to be the best for that. I'm going to swap up here in just a minute and throw a Jackal Re-Range 110, which is a little bit bigger bait, has a weight distribution system, allows me to cast a lot farther, and it does dive just a hair deeper too. Water when we get back in Deer Creek here seems to be a little more nice. We were back there by the main ramp, it was pretty dingy. Definitely going to pick up the jig here and fish the rest of this out to this point. Then I'm going to tie on that Re-Range 110. This trip was a spur of the moment deal, and I literally brought like 4 rods and literally hardly any tackle, because it's all in my house. I'm getting ready to get it cleaned up, and got a few months here, but going to Lake Fork here very soon. And I want to make sure all my gear's up to par and tie on new baits and all that stuff on it, put new line on it, because going to the land of the giants, you don't want to go in, you know, unprepared. So here's the Jackal Re-Range 110. See the difference in the size of the baits. Quite a bit bigger. Re-Range is white, obviously. I do have a bigger Re-Range. This is the Re-Range 130. I might throw it later. A little bit bigger profile. You can see it's quite a bit bigger profile. I'll throw this Re-Range for a minute. 3/4 ounce jig, wire hook keeper, wire weed guards like I pour. Straighten those babies out. Put a little JB's fish sauce, pinch of garlic on there. Just have a Big Bite Baits trailer on there. See the sheen on the water there? That's because this is made with crude fish oils, not harmful to the planet. And I'm sure you guys know, but this is my own signature blend here of JB's fish sauce called Pinch O Garlic. You can find that at jbsfishsauce.com. If you use OALL20 on another line live, so not 0, the letter O, ALL20 to save you 20% off on the old JB's fish sauce at the time of checkout. So I normally fish a jig fairly quick in the wintertime, finding these really, you know, hard bottoms. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I read an article that Chris Zaldain was talking about finding fish in the wintertime, and he hit a lot of the same points that I feel like I key on too. Hard bottoms, fishing really slow, or on the opposite side of that, you know, if a fish wants to eat something, you're not going to fish it too fast, no matter what color or what temperature the water is. But I feel like if you're going to fish slow, you need to fish like half or even a third slower than you normally would in the winter or in the summertime or whatever. You want to feel every rock, every stump, every twig on the bottom. And another thing he mentioned in that thing is why we come out a little later today is a lot of times that fish become more active, you know, afternoon. That's when the crayfish and the smaller bait fish and stuff become more active because the water temperature is rising ever so slightly. And another thing about the hard bottom is that it allows the water to stay at a warmer temperature a little longer, because those hard bottoms like rocks and things are going to hold the sunlight temperature more, and it's going to hold it longer than sand or mud would. And that's why fish, especially in the wintertime, are going to congregate towards those harder bottoms. I'm definitely going to be fishing Main Lake today. I'm not going to get up into too many creeks. I think the water is going to be too cold up in there. I got a couple spots I want to try. We're going to fish back in Deer Creek here for quite a while. If I can't get bit on this jig, I'm going to try that re-range again on this point and out on that little road bed. And then I might pick up a blade bait and see what happens there. The current jig setup right now, what I'm throwing this jig on right now is a Zodius, one of the new Zodius with a carbon handle. This is a 7.5 heavy Zodius casting with a Chronarch. This is a 150 XG, which is the higher gear ratio. Something that I really like when I'm jig fishing. It allows me to pick up a lot more line. And again, you guys already know this, but this is Sunline on here, obviously. I do believe this is 20-pound Sunline. This Chronarch 150 XG is perfect for this stuff, but if you're going to cast a jig a long ways, this Chronarch's not going to be for you. It doesn't hold a ton of line. It does, you know, plenty good enough. I mean, I could throw it, I could probably spool it with this 3/4 ounce jig, but it would be a lot. You know, I'm not normally casting a jig that far, but something that this Zodius would pair great with for jigs would be a Corrado 200, which I feel like holds a lot more line than most other Shimano reels. Gives you, you know, a lot more line capacity. The 150 might be all right too. It does hold a substantial amount of reel, or line on the reel, but I'm telling you what, the 200 is got to be one of my favorite reels on the planet ever created. Really nice price point on there. So if you see here, I can throw that jig pretty good bit. I mean, there's still quite a bit of line on there. Casted probably, I don't know, 45, 50 yards with the jig. But the reason I'm throwing it on this 7.5 Zodius heavy is the fact that it's a really good rod for the money, and I am still waiting on my NRX Plus. So my normal jig setup is going to be an NRX Plus 894 CJWR, the jig worm rod. Phenomenal rod for this technique, one of my absolute favorite. I hated to sell my NRX. I've been waiting on my NRX Plus since I guess about July. The supply chain's got everything screwed up because of COVID still, and I don't see that it's letting up anytime soon. But if you're looking for a decent budget-friendly rod, check out this Zodius 7.5 heavy for your jig applications. Looking about I think it's like $229 for the rod right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Usually I think it's $219. Find them on sale every now and again for $199, depending on where you're at. Winter pool on a lake is a phenomenal time to come out and try to catch a fish. Obviously fishing is a lot slower, but this is a great time for you to come out and check out bodies of water that you fish regularly, whether you're fishing tournaments on them regularly or you're just fishing them for fun regularly. You can find stuff like this road bed I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys can see right over there where my rod's pointing. There's a piece of concrete slab that comes down through here, and what you really can't see that when the water is up to normal pool. And what happens is that road bed goes all the way around this ledge and goes all the way down through the lake and comes out over there. So that concrete goes all the way through here. It was a road before this lake was dammed up. This is a Army Corps of Engineers flood control lake. So all the the lake, or all the roads and stuff that were here before the lake are still here. So you can see right there's the road bed. It comes all the way through here. Right now I'm in 20 foot of water, 20.4, and as I go up on here it goes a lot shallower than that. So I'm going to fish this road bed, and then I'm going to turn around and cast out here on this flat and see if I can keep my jig on that road bed, which is it's a really hard bottom. Again, should be about 12 to 13 foot of water on top of that road bed, which is phenomenal for the wintertime. And this is stuff that you can see, that you can either add to your graph or just add to your memory when it comes to fishing tournaments and finding spots that a lot of people are not knowing about. The biggest thing about catching fish consistently, in my opinion, is fishing where people don't really think to fish. And again, this road bed going right across here, especially in the center of this little pocket, there's not a whole lot of people that'll just pull out there and start throwing jigs or whatever on crankbaits in the summertime, a big giant Carolina rig, what have you. It's going to a lot of times hold fish that people are not going to try to fish for, and that's you know, key to winning tournaments and finding fish that nobody else is fishing for, because they have less pressure on them. Man. See there, it jumps up to about 17 foot, still climbing a little bit. On both sides of it's about 35 foot, so you know, there's just this one road bed goes all the way across, obviously right through me, but gives you a hard bottom place to fish, find some fish that somebody may not be fishing for unless they come out here and do some work or know the lake really well. So let's talk about coming out here on these days. It's nice when a lot of people don't want to get out of bed and come out here and do some fishing. Gives you the opportunity to try to get an advantage on somebody, because again, you're finding things that most people wouldn't know about. Like, it's easy to see this rock bank right here, but you're not going to see this road bed right off the bat, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. Got a nice point there, really nice you know, it's a steep bank. This would be a really good transition bank in the spring, because it comes back to a really big flat, and it gets really flat back in here. So this would be an excellent spot to stop in the springtime, and hopefully have them transition before they come back in here into this big flat spawn. Thing has saved more baits for me than any other thing I've ever used in my life, and you guys have seen this on my channel a bunch. Nothing more than a 3-ounce weight poured with a Do It mold and a snap swivel on top. Pretty much gets them back, man. Old black and blue is hard to beat in the old winter time. Probably don't need this 3/4 ounce, but I like to be able to stay right on the bottom. Trick is going to be finding a jig trailer in this boat, because I have zero. Find me a chunk crawl or something to butcher up. Plenty of jigs and a blade bait. I'll be throwing that one here in a minute. But I don't know if I have a single jig trailer in this boat. I do have some jig trailers. Tiny pocket chunk, that's a little small. I like to have something a little bigger than that. Baby pocket crawl, those are out. Might cannibalize. What do we have here? Pocket chunks, kind of small. I think I want to make it a little larger. Might do the old black and blue chunk crawl, which caught the biggest bass for me for the 2021 fishing season on a Texas rig. So what we're gonna do is cannibalize that baby. Going to cut it down in about half. Take these pliers, go about right here. Cut that thing off. Man, I am not mad at the way that thing looks. These jig tenons out there. Man, that thing was good. Top water action over there. I'm sure it was white bass or something chasing some bait. You see it out there. I'm fishing too shallow, man. Maybe I should be taking this jerk bait out there. I'm in 18 foot of water right now. Can't imagine that's bass out there chasing that in that deep water, but again, the water temperature is 46 degrees. Highest I've seen is about 47 we put in. Wilson, I'll do all the paddling. You just hold on. Riprap like this is an awesome hard bottom target area. Sorry, there's a car going by right up there. But I'm not sure how far this riprap comes out. I'm only sitting in about 10 foot of water, which is not ideal for the winter time. This is a really steep bank, comes off right out to 10 foot though. So you can see that there's, you know, there's a sandy bank here, and then it cuts back into another point, and there's another big riprap bank that I assume the Army Corps of Engineers put this stuff in there because there's a road right there, and probably just to keep it from slipping down in the lake eventually. Water, you can see, is normally up in that level right there, so we're fishing obviously winter pool. So this is a really good spot. I like to fish in the summertime too. Just a lot of cover, a lot of things for, you know, crawfish and crawdads and minnows and a few other things to be living in. Draws a fish with them for sure. Again, we do have a big flat back in here that this will be another good bank for them to transition on before the spawn in the spring, because a lot of times what happens, they'll stage on these really steep banks going into a flat, into a spawning area like that over there around this curve, because usually in the springtime they're looking to feed, but they don't want to have to expend a ton of energy to do it. So they just want to be able to inflate their swim bladder and go, you know, up the water column or down it without exerting a lot of energy with swimming. So they stage on banks like this. That's steeper banks right on the edge of a big flat like this. So this is definitely something you would want to look at for the springtime, especially right before the spawn, especially when they're staging here. They'll also, on the opposite side of that, after the spawn, post spawn, they'll stage on these things to get back out into the deeper areas as well. So you know, before and after the spawn, banks like this, excellent places to fish. It's one of the most iconic baits on the planet. Used to be called the Silver Buddy, still kind of is. This is one I've poured. These 3 holes right here will allow your bait to run differently. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put that in the center one right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cast this thing out, and I don't really have the proper rod for this technique right now. I only brought 4 rods with me. The only thing that I have that resembles a rod that I'll throw this on is my medium diver crankbait rod, which I have right here, which is a G Loomis IMX Pro 866C deep flex crankbait rod. So this blade bait right here makes a ton of noise, a lot of action in the water. I'm gonna cast this thing out. That didn't go very well. Cast it out and basically yo-yo it back to the boat. You're going to lose these things doing this technique, no doubt about it. That's why I bought the Do It blade bait mold. Gives me an opportunity to pour my own should I lose some, which is going to happen. The way you fish these things, you're definitely going to lose some. You know, really the only thing you're out are the blade blanks and your hooks. I throw this thing on a swivel, which is one of the few baits I do throw on a swivel. Gives me the opportunity to get the line twist out of my line. So what's going to happen is we're going to let this thing drop, and what's going to happen, this thing's actually going to rattle like this, basically vibrating back and forth until it hits the bottom, and then you're going to rip this thing up, and the water is going to cause this bait to go side to side as you rip it up, and then it's going to dart back to the bottom doing the same thing. Kind of mimics a spoon. Also a wounded bait fish, stellar bait for the winter time. I'm just ripping this thing off the bottom, similar to a rattle trap. You're not going to want to throw this in that big pile of rocks, or where there's stumps and stuff. This is nothing but a big flat out through here. So I'm ripping this thing off the bottom. You can throw it in those rocks and stuff if you wanted to, but you're going to lose it a lot of times. Again, it's causing a lot of flutter in the action. I don't know if you can see it on my rod tip there, but I'm ripping it up and just letting it sink to the bottom, basically yo-yoing it back to the boat. You could actually, if you wanted to, reel this thing like a crankbait. Definitely does mimic like a rattle trap. Rattle trap is a phenomenal thing to throw in the winter and the springtime too. I do have a few of those in the boat. Might throw a couple of those in a second. We don't have a ton of time to fish today. It's what is this? A stick or a fish or both? That came off, whatever it was. Must have been it was a steak. All right, guys, Misty and I back here doing a little fishing at Grayson, and you saw what I've thrown so far, and it hasn't worked. We're fishing hard bottom stuff, trying to find some fish. They're definitely going to be lethargic right now. It's 47 degrees out. I feel like I'm gonna have a really good chance to catch one on a rattle trap around this way, so I'm gonna take off that blade bait. I've thrown it a few times. I'm not feeling it right now, especially on these sandy banks like this. So I'm gonna pick up a rattle trap and just try my best. I apologize if you guys can't hear because of that wind, but I'm gonna try my best to catch one today. We only got about an hour left to fish. We're gonna grab something to eat, but anytime we can get out on December 27th here in my area, I'm down for it. If you guys missed the last video, that was down in Nashville with my buddy Jamie Baxter. It was an amazing weekend for me. Thank you guys for the support. A lot of you guys shared my video and things. It was a really cool opportunity. This potentially could be the last fishing video you see for, well, definitely going to be for the 2021 fishing season. We're going to wrap this thing up. I know I won't be able to get out in the next few days fishing because the weather's supposed to be really nice, but it's going to be raining all the time, and I got a few things I got to do around my house and around my dad's house, a few other things, but it's going to be a good time. We're going to fish our way back to the boat ramp and then put her on and go back to the homestead. So if it ends here, we didn't catch any fish. We try to do a lot of things that are prime to catch fish in the wintertime, but hopefully there'll be a little segue after this that says, hey man, we caught this fish, but right now we are fish 1, Tyler, Misty back there 0, but that's the way it goes. Guys, I know you guys have been seeing this on my channel a lot the past few weeks. Apex Fishing Apparel. Check them out at apexfishingapparel.com. My buddy Mark Hickey and his wife have a good thing going on with this stuff. First time I've ever had this out. Obviously, it's a sun shirt. I'm talking about December not getting burnt here, but it is nice and comfortable to wear. I have a t-shirt underneath this. It's about probably 62, 63 degrees. Really comfortable to fish in. And again, if you want to get your hands on some of these, they have hoodies and a few other things that you can get your hands on, drinkware and things. That's Apex Fishing Apparel. It's right here on the bottom, apexfishingapparel.com. So guys, hopefully you see a fish after this, but if not, if you can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on another line.